This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
All right, let's welcome in Tom Murphy to the program, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette and Whole Hog Sports. Tom, we appreciate you joining us, as always, Tuesdays at 8 o'clock. Tom, I want to start with what's been going down the last couple of days. Grant Nelson, not 100% confirmed if he's going to end up in Tuscaloosa. Arkansas fans still holding out hope that he ends up at Arkansas. If you don't get him, what is the guy or what kind of player do you think Eric Musselman might add, if any, to this basketball roster?
Yeah, morning, Ty. It's always a pleasure. Yeah, it's been interesting to see it, the way it's played out, you know, the breaking news and then the family, I think, responding and saying, hold on now. And, you know, if that is his choice to go to Alabama, then, you know, you feel a little bad for them that it came out the way it did, I suppose. But I don't know, from the sound of it, maybe it's not a done deal. And he would have been a magnificent, or he would be a magnificent addition. Inside, outside guy. I mean, his highlight reel. I mean, you can compare his game to Trevin Brazile, in my view. But maybe a little thicker up top. But I think, and I've said it here before, I think, you know, they've got to have a rebounding type guy. If you're going to add somebody else, then just a 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", muscular guy who may not score a ton, but can clean up around the basket and rebound for you. Just kind of be an enforcer, a guy you can use fouls on if you need to against a big guy.
Sounds like another Kamani, what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know, and Kamani could clean up. I mean, I guess 6'7" there, but yeah, I would say 6'7" to 6'10", physical. You go get like guys against UConn's center who was really powerful, Sonogo, and just be able to use fouls on him and be an enforcer type guy.
All right, I got a question about this recruiting thing that we've been talking about this morning. The report that came out yesterday came out on the On3 website. May be precisely correct. We just don't know yet. I'm interested in what the standard is. You know, you work for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, reputable. I've been keeping up with AL.com the last 24 hours, you know, which is kind of a conglomeration of the newspapers in Alabama. Not anything about this on there. When do you run with a story? What's your standard before you run with a story?
Good question, Chuck, and thanks for the compliment there about the ADG. You know, I cannot speak to what On3 sources were on this, but, I mean, 2 sources. If you say you get something from, say, Coach Sam Pittman or Coach Eric Musselman, that's one source, and you can believe it. So I don't know who they relied on here. Could be people working with the family, could be people in the industry. You just don't know. But if you're not getting it from, say, the horse's mouth, usually you go with two sources and let it roll from there. And so, you know, we'll see how this plays out. I mean, I would love to have seen Grant Nelson in an Arkansas uniform, and maybe the door's not closed on that. But I cannot speak to who they relied on in this situation.
So what do you think is next if the reports are true and Grant Nelson ends up being an Alabama basketball player this next season? What are the options at this point when the portal's pretty bare and you're pretty late in the process?
Well, I mean, if you examine Arkansas's roster, you feel like you got a lot of high point. I mean, you feel like you got your backcourt in pretty good shape. You got shooters, you got defenders, you got ball handlers. You got Mekhi Mitchell coming back on the inside. You know, you got Brazile back. I like the composition of their roster. If you add somebody, I think you're adding another nugget to a pile of riches. And you know, I'm not saying that you don't have to have anybody, but if they can add a warm body who can give them some minutes, then that's a plus.
What I hear you saying is they'll be fine with what they have.
Yeah, the short version of that was I think they got a pretty good roster as it stands, and Grant Nelson or anyone else would have been gravy.
Talking with Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette and Whole Hog Sports. Tom, while the basketball roster is still in flux, the football roster seems to be kind of batting down. When you look at the roster right now and then you look against some of the other SEC opponents that you're going to be facing, Where do you think Arkansas stacks up wise in the SEC in terms of its football rosters by position groups?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't have in-depth knowledge of every team's, wide receiver core or whatever, but this is what I know. I know that they have a starting quarterback who you could compare with anybody, in the SEC. You have a backfield. I mean, this is a third year running or fourth year running under Jimmy Smith. It's pretty loaded that I would compare with anybody. The receivers untested, but we like what we saw from them in spring. The D-line, even though I wouldn't consider any of them like superstar, maybe Trajan Jeffcoat can rise into that. Maybe Zach Williams has a great super senior year. But it's kind of like there's good depth there. And Sam Pittman talked toward the end of spring that, that D-line group, they're feeling pretty good about the depth. And the schemes, like matching up the schemes Travis Williams wants to run with the depth they have there. I like Pupal and Antonio Greer at linebacker, Jordan Crook. They haven't gone super deep at linebacker in recent years, so maybe you can roll with those three. But if they have to go deeper, then you're going to have to try some untested guys, or somewhat untested. And then obviously defensive backfield, there's a lot of names. But, are you going to be able to get Quincy McAdoo back this year? That's a question. The cornerback situation looked pretty deep throughout the course of spring with Snacks and Dwight McLaughlin. And then safety. I think their safety numbers would probably be lower than most teams in the SEC. And, I mean, all in all, you probably don't have the type of depth that, say, a Bama or LSU or maybe an A&M has. But it's the kind of roster who, if they can catch a break, win closer games, there's no reason to think they can't, land somewhere between the 7-6 of last year and 9-4 and possibly a win more than that. And they've done a good job of developing some depth here.
You mentioned the closer games. Arkansas was 2-4 in one-score ball games last year. What leads you to believe that will flip as it kind of did 2 years ago?
Well, I'm not certain that it will flip yet. They struggled in some third and fourth and shorts last year. What will the Dan Enos quotient add to their play calling, their execution? That's a question. And honestly, if they had been better in those situations, I mean, you think about some of the goal lines in the games they lost by 2 or fewer. You had a 2-point conversion against Liberty that you tie the game if you convert it. You have a chance to go up 10-0 against LSU if they can just convert the I think it's second and goal from the 1. The Missouri game, they get stopped on the goal line and then go forward on 4th down and get nothing. So if they can just convert half of the ones I'm mentioning here, who knows? They might have had another 9-win season.
Tom, what's your gut telling you on what the 24 schedule is going to look like when they unveil it tomorrow night?
Chuck, I think we're used to seeing Arkansas draw a road game at Florida. But since they're playing Florida this year on the road, maybe they won't get that. Maybe they won't get Georgia at home. I'm going to say, for once, they're going to land Vanderbilt or Kentucky, maybe Tennessee, as kind of their bonus game. And I think they'll wind up with a good number of West teams like they usually do, maybe both the Mississippi schools, maybe either Auburn or Alabama. I think they wind up with A&M. And I guess with OU and Texas coming in, you'll get 1 or 2 of those. I don't know what my total count is up to now. And then Missouri.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities out there. I mean, it's, the way they're doing this tomorrow night is going to be it's going to be watched. People are going to pay attention. I'm anxious to see. I just wondered if you had maybe any gut feeling on it.
No, I think they're going to wind up with Missouri and A&M, even though I know Hunter Yurchek said that's not guaranteed. I think they will. I think they'll wind up with Texas, so that's 3. If you get one or 2 of the Mississippi schools, that's 4. You get 1 of the Alabama schools, that's 5. You're going to get another East team. So I'm thinking maybe they get Vandy or Kentucky there, and then you add on maybe 1 more East team, and I don't know. They'll wind up with, and maybe they'll get OU. Maybe they'll get both of the newcomers. But you know what? It'll be fun. It'll be something different because we've been used to the way that the schedule has gone in recent years. And when the COVID hit, they got Georgia and Florida, little bonus teams there. And I just think it'll be, interesting that you're not playing every team in the West.
Yeah.
So that'll be a fun part of it.
So, we focus on Arkansas' schedule and what they're going to get or not get. What do we think the newcomer schedules will look like, guys? What? Because I think everyone would love to have Texas on their schedule, particularly in their stadium, because they're a draw.
Right.
What do you think Texas' schedule will look like when it comes out for the 24 season?
Well, they're going to get some marquee games. You'd have to feel pretty certain they'll get A&M, and you'd think that they would get one of the other powers, LSU, Bama, maybe like Tennessee, Florida, and just a good distribution. I mean, we think of the schools in the SEC in terms of maybe tiers and all, but I'm sure they'll get one of the four teams of Vandy, Kentucky, South Carolina, one of that group, and who knows? I mean, they might pair them with Georgia too. So, and OU, it's going to be different for those two schools because I think they've been used to more of the shootout type games, and maybe there's some years where a West Virginia or an Iowa State or somebody's down, and it might be considered a easier win. And I think they're going to find the SEC is a tough go of it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun watching. It's rare appointment TV that's not a Razorback game for us in the month of June.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your championship finals info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and the latest matchup reports for this year's NBA and Stanley Cup Finals. BetOnline is your sports intel headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your insider sports wagering needs, from baseball and hockey to MLB, UFC, and boxing. The fastest and easiest way to get all your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your home. Get in the action today. Head over to our website or use your mobile device to join, and be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive 50% bonus on your first deposit. That's BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.